Morning, everyone. My name is Deimante. I'm a psychotherapist and counselor practicing in Dublin, Ireland and online. This morning, I will have a co-host in this live stream, Nikki, and we will both talk about ceremonial cacao as a therapeutic tool. Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, good
Good
morning. How are you?
morning. Hello.
Happy Wednesday. How are you, girl?
I'm good, thank you. Wednesday, the 20th of March. So I was just saying that I was going live for every day of March, and I read an article about ceremonial cacao in the ICP magazine, which is my accreditation body for psychotherapists and counselors, and I immediately remembered you. And seeing that, you always work with ceremonial cacao, you know so much about it. So maybe do a little bit of intro and tell a bit about yourself and who you are, what you do, and why ceremonial cacao.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. I think it's I love what you're doing. I was watching you. So most of the time I'm quite busy, but I was like, and that's like really, really good topics you're bringing up in there. So you're doing an amazing job. So keep doing it. And thank you for actually bringing your eyes around the ceremonial cacao as well, because it is hugely growing. There are some misconception about it, and then I think maybe this is a wonderful opportunity to educate a little bit everyone, and hopefully maybe make them feel like that they do want to try ceremonial cacao as well. So I'm actually having a beautiful
Oh,
cup of ceremonial cacao at most morning, actually, or at least most days, and well, as you mentioned, like, well, look who I am. So my name is Nikki, and I am doing ceremonial cacao and other type of cacao and kind of a plant medicine related ceremonies and workshops, which sometimes including breath work and yoga. But when it comes to the cacao, I think it came to me somewhere about maybe 5, 6 years ago. And
mhm.
to be honest, I never thought too much about it because I thought, well, sure, look, it's a cup of hot chocolate, how far this can go. But then as I learned more about the cacao, I realized because my background would be much from as yourself, we were together in the fitness industry. So it's
Mhm.
always about movement and the movement of energy. And now that we are kind of looking at more of the holistic side of everything, we know that energy in motion is our emotion. So that's why it feels sometimes so good to go down for a walk, a run, or down to the gym, because we release those energies and those pressures from our body that maybe cause us stress. So when it comes to cacao, how cacao really works, and for me, was the real scientific, point of view where I was like, oh, okay, well that sounds really good. in yoga, we know that the heart chakra is the center of our energy centers. And through the heart chakra, you open the space to your upper chakras, to your spiritual, holistic mindset, and then to your lower chakras, which is our physical body. So the heart is always the key. And what I found out that ceremonial cacao is a heart opening medicine, that it's thousands of years old and being practiced from the Mayan traditions, who knew nothing what we know, but they know more and in a different way. And they loved cacao. They loved cacao so much that cacao was actually valued as much as gold. Like from 40 cacao beans, you could actually buy back in the days a goat, and I think up to 200 cacao beans, you can have a bull or a cow or, one of those kinds as well. So it was really in a trading commodity, a very valuable thing. And unfortunate, really only the royals were able to actually drink cacao. So everyday people like you and me, back in the days, if we would have been Mayas, we would maybe never would have tasted cacao. Well, now, thankfully, and actually I love this, one of my favorite ceremonial cacao they use called the Sorrow Experience. They actually block the Bali cacao in the block of gold. So it's just even to represent how valuable it was for them back in the days. They believed it's bring them closer to nature. It brings them closer to the gods, to the higher self. They went through phases what they worshipped and what they believed in, because we're talking about here like 1,000 years in a society. So for them, cacao was called Mama Cacao, or the spirit of cacao, and it's really almost like a manifestation of Gaia, which is Mother Earth. So living in balance with the earth. And that's included us living in balance emotionally, mindfully living. So obviously we live in a very consuming world at the moment, which is quite the opposite, because our kitchen is full of boxes and all these things. And we're living in the city, so there's no way around it. I'm not trying to convert anyone, because we can't. It's the way and how we live at the moment. But over there was huge impact from cacao about how to harvest certain things when it comes to the crops, and how to live in balance with certain parts of the world. So that being like, obviously, thousands of years we were talking about, but how did it come to us? So obviously through the Spanish Inquisitions, when the Spanish around 1820, when they arrived to this Mayan world, the tale says that by then the Mayan Empire was falling. And one of their falling was that they turned to other gods, and they turned away from living in balance with the nature, and in this case, Mama Cacao and the spirit of cacao. So the spirit of cacao turned into human form, and a tale, or the beautiful tale, like, the old story saying that she actually became a woman every single time they believed her less and less, because she lost her spirit form. And she fell in love with a beautiful Spanish man who owned this wonderful ship, and she actually sailed back to Spain. So there and then cacao disappeared, except that obviously chocolate itself, there was a time that it arrived to Europe as we know chocolate now. Back in the days, it was more like bean to bar chocolate, which is real raw ceremonial chocolate. But this is how it started to almost like spread around Europe as such thing as chocolate and cacao. And now we're talking about cacao about, again, 5 years ago. I think when I started cacao in Ireland, there was maybe one or two cacao ceremony facilitator. It was very hard to put your hand on ceremonial cacao. And the legends say again, when Mama Cacao died in Spain, that she said, I'll come out of the forest when the people are ready to open their hearts. And here we go, about 2020, the people were ready. Like, I mean, the pandemic had horrible effect, but it also had wonderful effect as well. Every situation has both sides of the coin. So one of the wonderful effects that people were more open to other people connections, family, friends, what's really matter, changing the values. And I think that was a turning point for cacao to, so-called, by the tale and by the stories, to come out of the forest. And I looked now in the past 5 years, there is not doubled, not tripled, but tenfold the amount of the cacao facilitators available in Ireland, the numbers and the type of ceremonial cacaos you can put your hand on now. as I said before, it was really hard. Now it's available widely anywhere and almost from anyone. So I think the tale is in some level coming true. And I think truly is a beautiful heart-opening medicine on the side of the
Mhm.
fact that it's actually full of magnesium, vitamin A and K. It's a huge antioxidant. It has 40 times more antioxidants than blueberries, which if you trade your cup of coffee in the morning for a cup of cacao, it really saves you to buy a lot of blueberries into your porridge in the morning.
Yeah.
It's huge. I think it's huge.
And you know what? You just kind of touched on like a cup of tea or coffee or cacao in the morning. I think that from the past, I wouldn't be mistaken to say that you were quite a coffee lover.
Indeed.
And,
Indeed. Indeed.
and if you compare having coffee and having this ceremonial cacao, what would you say is are those similarities and differences? And also afterwards, I'm very curious to know, since you have a cup of ceremonial cacao in your own hands now, what are your sensory feelings? How does it smell? How does it feel? What does it taste like?
Yeah. And that's a really, really good question, actually. Now, I'm going to say this out loud now at the beginning. That is my personal experience and my personal
Mm-hmm,
opinion. So maybe some people find cacao differently. So
mm-hmm,
take everything with a pinch of salt, knowing that it's my opinion. Um, if you would, or anyone, think about exchanging your morning coffee or your afternoon coffee with a cacao, maybe more for, I would say, financial reasons. I wouldn't go for ceremonial cacao, but it's also spiritual reasons as well.
mm-hmm,
Financial reasons is because it's more expensive, much more expensive, because ceremonial cacao goes through a beautiful way of being brought to you, and there's a lot of hands work being put in there, so it costs more. It's almost like, I would say, vintage crafty stuff, when you make your own
mm-hmm.
earrings or your necklace, it's worth more than the one that's coming out of the factory. So just to simplify it like that.
And
um
Nikki, just to interrupt you, so for example, if we're talking money here, right?
mm,
So what would be the staple amount for, I don't know,
yeah.
for a little bag or something like that?
And I was actually just about to show you a few things in here, because there are two types of a cacao that I would recommend. The one is called a bean to bar cacao, and it's a beautiful, almost Irish product, because two wonderful ladies up in Wicklow brought it from
Mhm.
Nicaragua and from the Dominican Republic. And this one is opened already, so don't mind it, but it's
Mm,
called the Nibet cacao, all right?
mm,
And this one is a 300 gram of bean to bar cacao, which is fair trade, organic, and it's, from my opinion, a really, really good quality cacao. So 300 gram of this, and you would drink in the morning to replace your coffee about 10. So let's say it's give you about 30 coffee, right? It would be about 15
mhm,
euro. And you can find them in many health food shops like Nourish, Lots and Co., like artisan shops as well.
mhm,
And they have an Irish website, so delivery goes like this. So that's to put the price on it. I would drink that in the morning, and I tell you
mhm,
why. Um, I would honor the ceremonial cacao as its name with at least a meditation.
mhm,
So if I do drink ceremonial cacao, which is some of my favorite one is this, and this would be about like roughly 45 euro.
mhm,
But that's almost half a kilo as well. You can see that.
mhm,
This one from Bali.
mhm.
This one is called the Wild Child
Wow.
Cacao. I absolutely love this one. Now, I always take this when I make my beautiful pyramids or my earrings or my necklaces, because this cacao, it's coming from Jamaica. But what it really does, cacao has this beautiful component in there that it activates your hypothalamus, and it brings up your creativity. So that's why, for example, in cacao ceremonies, I use guided meditation, because the visualization goes a little bit more by. So you
Mm,
talked about sensations. So I wouldn't say there's particular body sensations may come, but for sure, your visualization, your emotional connection to visuals, listening to music, those are very, very strong. And you may get a little bit more emotional to, let's say, listening to music, whether if it's happy or sad music as well. That's, again, your choice. But because of it, doing a meditation or yoga or breath work is really powerful with the cacao, because you can release anger, fear, just being pissed off your neighbors or your boyfriend yesterday. It could be small, could be large, doesn't matter. But cacao would help you to release this. So if you just drink it in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that the underlying magic that it holds, I would not drink a ceremonial cacao if I know I won't have the time to sit with it a little bit. And one of my other favorite ones, and this one is called the Mother Earth Cacao. This is a really, really cute one. And this is about like €30 as well, 300 grams. So it's similar kind of prices. So again, just think about it. Obviously, financially, you would cost you a lot of blocks of gold, but like gold, to have it in there. But for example, like today I'm working part-time, so I will do some yoga and breath work. So I will take a cup of cacao.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put some incense or sage and just
Mm-hmm.
sit down and really meditate with it. And I think what it does, it actually works like coffee. So there is a substance in there called theobromine, and even that nibbed cacao would have it as well. And that is similar to the coffee, that it gives you the alertness, but it doesn't give you the crash and the jitters. So it kind of almost takes all those bad things out of the coffee as so-called after effect. So I do like replacing, actually, particularly sometimes my afternoon coffee. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still a coffee lover, because if I pass by a very nice coffee shop and if I see that, oh, these are like nice guys, I really enjoy a cup of coffee. And I don't think you would need to give up one or the other, but I know people who have issues drinking coffee. So I think changing it to a bean to bar or a ceremonial grade of cacao is a really, really good option. And it's super healthy compared to like other cacao. Plus the sugar amount of it, which is natural sugar, because it's coming from actually a quite beautiful fruit itself,
Mm-hmm.
which we all know fruit has a bit of a fructose in there. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it actually from the bitterness a little bit nice and creamy and maybe a little bit sweet as well, I would say, but put a quote unquote into the sweet.
Thank you. And you know that first cacao that you showed? So that one wasn't ceremonial. So what is it called
Yeah.
if people wanted to look for it? More of a casual cacao, which is still very high grade, and you would recommend, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'll give you actually later on this the company name. As I
Mm-hmm.
say, it's an Irish brand, so I'm happily sharing their details because I personally know the ladies, and I think they are really, really nice ladies, and they have very good ethics in the making the cacao. So the main difference is obviously the price, but when it comes to ceremonial cacao, there's two spiritual and ethical way of creating the cacao makes a difference. One is most ceremonial cacao being planted
Mm-hmm.
with the intention of becoming a medicine.
Wow.
So imagine yourself having a plant at home, and you say to yourself that I'm going to bring this plant into all of my therapies, and this is going to be something that lighten up my office or my therapy room.
Mm-hmm.
And you buy, or you even buy the seed of the plant, and you're almost every day you're drinking your coffee or cacao and you're looking at the plant and you're like, that plant is going to be a very important part. So we all know now, it's again fact, that actually planting something, particularly let's say a house plant, with intention, talking to your plant, and that really works. It's not a mumbo jumbo anymore. It's being proven. So imagine now a whole plantation of cacao being planted with the intention to become not a drink but a medicine. So obviously the intention is huge in there. Being handpicked, it's very important. So there's no machines are really, and no factorization being involved in there. It's the old indigenous way, taking the cacao. And actually most of these things are coming from areas where women who may not get kind of work out in construction site and,
Mm-hmm.
building this and that, they would be picking the cacao and they would be singing beautiful songs. And this nurturing, loving, mothering energy kind of goes into the cacao. Then they would peel it, ferment it, dry it, and then obviously there is a pasting kind of process would go
Mm-hmm.
in there. So that's very ceremonial, even to making it. And that's why you pay so much more for these, because it's throughout the journey of the cacao becoming an actual bar.
Gold
It's so
bar.
much care and love and intention goes in. The other one, it's organic, it's fair trade. Actually, the people who work it in there, I know the story of this lovely Wicklow ladies. They put a lot of money in there in Dominican Republic to making sure that the people get well paid, which is very important in some of
Mhm.
these countries to ensure that those people are not slaves. You know, we do want to make sure that
Absolutely.
those people are actually getting decent money for this work. But obviously a certain amount of a machinery will need to be involved in there. Maybe they wouldn't be intentionally planting it. It's just tick the fair trade, the organic, boxes. So yes, and spiritually, I think there is a huge difference in there. But then again, if you're looking to replace your coffee, as in physical and chemical effect on you, I think the other cacao is beautiful too.
Thank you. And as a psychotherapist and counselor, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about the therapeutic effects of the cacao, if it's ceremonial or the one that you talked about, if it's, fair trade and organic and all that. Um, what could it be, if I wanted to somewhat introduce cacao maybe in the therapy session, therapeutic space, which you would understand would be, could be a couple's therapy, whereas a couple sitting, let's say, on the couch and you're sitting in your armchair as a therapist, maybe one-to-one, a client and the therapist, or how could I even almost like integrators, or me as a therapist, maybe say, for example, after sessions, the therapists are obliged to take like notes and stuff like that. Like that could be also something, because I suppose I'm going through the session in my own mind, and it could be very therapeutic in that sense. What do you think?
Definitely. I'd say it has a two side of the coin. It could be catastrophic, it could be therapeutic. And I mean, catastrophic is a very strong word, but I'd say you as a psychotherapist now, you would make your own decision that which of your client is ready.
Oh,
So someone who you say it's very, very emotional and maybe couldn't even hold the session together without crying or having the anxiety being brought up, I wouldn't give that person cacao, because cacao would really open a channel of feelings. And sometimes you can't even deal with your very own feelings right now,
mhm.
which basically means that if you're not guided into a deep so-called meditation or breath work with the cacao, you may find that the cacao just kind of gives you a little bit more of that anxiety. But that you can make the decision because you would know your client. So you say, a bunch of client A, I'm not giving them ceremonial cacao because they're just not there to be embodied. And then you take your client B team, and
Mhm.
they would be the people, for example, find it hard to express emotions. You were talking about like couples therapy,
Yeah,
which might be actually perfect because you want them to open their heart towards each
yeah.
other. Maybe you're talking about someone with parents issues, forgiving, grieving. I think that would be a beautiful medicine, the cacao, to open their heart. And you as a therapist could incorporate it in a way to open every single therapy of yours for these particular type of people with the cup, bring them into a very gentle, just be with mindful breath work. I wouldn't call it into deep meditation, but just get them being here
Grounded.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then make them talk. And I think
Mm.
that could be a huge effect. And if they do like it, you could teach them the same way. You could teach them
Mm.
how to incorporate into their daily life, to drink cacao. And I actually do know the Saro guys, they do cacao facilitator training, but you can do a lot online as well. And there's many, many ways. There's no right and wrong way. That is, I think, the most important. There's no right and wrong way to host cacao. So if you decide that cacao for you is going to be part of your therapy, You just need to choose the right type of a people and clients who you maybe introduce this to. And very, very little the amount of the so-called contraindications that the cacao has, almost similar as coffee, to put it that way, you know.
Mm.
So I'd say you would have a huge success for implementing to your sessions the cacao.
Thank you, Nikki. And I think that both you and I are advocates for mental and physical health. As you said, we've met, well, I met Nikki as a personal trainer. So you have been my personal trainer now, how many years ago? Like close to a decade ago. And, you know, I really got inspired and I really got going and I felt really supported. So that was excellent. And that what really drew myself into fitness industry. And I did the course that you did. And I worked where you used to work. So we really have those kind of, similar footprints. And I'm just saying that after all these years now, we're talking about cacao. All what I'm saying is that we have both been interested in various different aspects of physical and mental health. And I suppose we're both, again, over the years, I've trained to become psychotherapist and counselor. I have joined lots of different things that you've done over the years. You have the Twerk Fit classes, and people can see it on your Instagram. And there are actual physical classes, at least there were in Dublin. And they are, am I
They
right
are
to say
indeed,
that?
indeed, yeah.
They are. So when do you have your Twerk Fit classes then?
So I do them every Monday evening. They're regular 1 hour classes. So they're very much, like I always say to people, they're dense classes, and particularly when it comes to the twerking, the huge part of it is really to destigmatize
That's
the word.
it.
Um, and because of it, I do a lot of festivals, as well as, for example,
Mhm.
here is the beautiful thing, and you would love that one. And maybe one day you really want to come for one of these. I do actually this Sunday now a blue lotus medicine, which is similar to
Oh,
cacao. It's more of a third eye, so kind of like the inner wisdom opener. But I do quite often with cacao a tribal twerk, because Twerk
mhm,
word itself has been ruined for us because we remember the past 70 years of history, which is coming out of strip club, and it's very sexualized. But 300 years ago, this was a very sacred dance in a circle for women to elevate their energy, their power, to help them release their emotions. So now imagine embodying these kind of more ancient indigenous moves with the twerk, other than what we see in a TV. With the cup of cacao, I had beautiful, like I had ladies who just release so much emotions through the dance. And it's actually quite popular out there now, so-called ecstatic dance and cacao. So it's for people who doesn't want to drink, but they want to go on Saturday evening and they want to kick the socks. And obviously the music might not be club music. It's kind of in between electronic music and spiritual music.
mhm,
But it's very much about free movement to release, because we know, again, we talked about like emotion, energy, emotion. It's basically your feelings. So through movements, you can release a lot of feelings and stress and trauma and trapped energies. So those classes are there every Monday, but they're really, I call them a hook, because people come and they are like, oh, that's fun. And then they maybe come to my tribal twerk and cacao and they're like, oh, that's spiritual too. So
absolutely.
it's really about that yin and yang of everything. And I think,
Absolutely.
same with you in life. Like
Mhm,
your sessions could be very logical,
mhm,
very straightforward, very calculative, because maybe somebody needs that. And it also could be very spiritual, very holistic with a cup of cacao.
mhm.
And both is a wonderful and successful therapy session. And I think that's the most important, that you want to get from everything you do what you intended to get out of it, no matter which way you're taken.
Exactly. And even like, so say both Nikki and I, we have corporate background, I am still in the corporate environment. Nikki is in corporate environment, I suppose, maybe through the events, because you do events as well and such. So we both, I suppose, went through experiencing different environments. different countries as well. And, both being foreigners in Ireland, foreigners who live here for so long. Um, so I suppose it's all about really the journey of the person. And, especially, I've been thinking the other days now, like recently, that I would like to maybe have a bit of personal training sessions myself and all that. All I mean is that sometimes in life we all need a little bit of pick me up. And I mean it in a holistic way where you need a little bit of a coach in your life. It could be called, I don't know, whatever, spiritual coach. It could be whatever you call it. It could be just simply, a personal trainer. It could be a yoga teacher, anyone at all. But in psychotherapy, I would say this is called an attachment figure for that moment in time. Sometimes we feel that, you may have all the knowledge about exercising and nutrition and the rest, but you just need somebody to sort of bring you back to that path. Yesterday I went for a run. I said to myself, look, it's going to be half an hour and that's all. And when you set very doable goal, it's like, yeah, I've done it. It's done. You feel good. And I think that's one of the things that I also learned from you is that you just have to get things done, get things moving. And over the years, I've seen so many things that you've done, and they're very similar to the things that I do as well. So, therefore, I think sometimes is when we see somebody doing something, such as yourself with ceremonial cacao and cacao altogether, and all these meditations and yoga and lots of different things. And that's just few things. I think you're very kind of dynamic and you have so much to offer. And just from your Instagram, I always see all these things popping up. Nikki is facilitator here. She's a speaker there. She does this. Now she started that. Soon enough, she'll start her own retreats in Ireland. I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't yet. So,
It's
it's
already on the
excellent.
way.
On the way. I know it's in making. And, like we periodically meet in person. And then it's just nice to have like-minded people. And I think that in more of a holistic terms is that, your tribe will find you and you'll find your tribe if you will remain honest to yourself and to your wants and to your desires. So we probably have another 15 minutes or so. So we talked about cacao at this kind of a introductory level. I know that you recently went to India. Did that have anything to do with cacao, or what was that about? I'm just curious personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So that actually didn't have much to do with cacao directly. So I have been, funnily enough, exactly at the same time when I fell in love with cacao, I fell
Mm-hmm.
in love with the yoga type called Kundalini yoga. And you
Yes.
know me, we have been yoga teachers for
Yeah.
God knows 15 years. Um, and I always found yoga is a good stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have been, one of those yoga teacher who is quite a badass, and it really kicks the class going. But I never had the spiritual kind of side of yoga, which originally meant intended to. But when I started to do Kundalini yoga, it rocked my world. And it's just really simple, a little bit more of that breath work that we don't do that much in original yoga. And I found really, I mean, me personally, I was off the hop pairing it with cacao. So I had a beautiful cacao and I sat down, I had half an hour, and I've done a good Kundalini session, and I found that it's just deeply relaxing in almost in a way that's like cleansing energetically your body. So then again, yeah, you can go into work and you don't feel like carrying stuff from yesterday work or from last night conversations or from anything. So for me, it was really to constantly cleanse my body from inside thoughts, from what happened in the past, so then I can show up wherever I go with a clean slate, no judgment. What is it happening in here?
Mm-hmm.
And be really kind of subjective as much as possible. Um, So I decided, because I've done a yoga course in um, in San Diego, and that was what people know as a Yogi Bhajan,
Mm.
Kundalini training. And then I realized that I feel like I need more, and we all know where yoga came from. It's from India.
That's
So I never
right.
really been drawn to the culture, to be honest, nor really the food. I would have been more of the Chinese takeaway girl. But then I said to myself, you know what? Well, if you do it right, why don't you just do it right? You know, it's 1 month of our life. And I remember a year ahead, I spoke to my boss, and then I said, look, if I can't get all the holiday, I'm happy for a non-paid holiday. I'll do anything throughout the year. Just let me go for a month. And she was really cool about it. She said, look, pick the month, get the cover, and she said I'm super supportive. So I'm really grateful actually for that, and it was really nice. So I went to India and I really deepened my experience with, I would say, just generally yoga. I would like to say I realized that what I've been doing in 15 years, that was not yoga. But then again, that's what we were taught,
Right.
you know.
So what was it? Was it improvised yoga, something similar?
Yeah, and you know what? I think what happened with us, and I don't like using their word, but let's call it now Westerners. Okay, so India
Right.
originally coming from the East, and the yoga really is supposed to be a preparation for meditation, where we do
Mm-hmm.
now 45 minutes yoga and 15 minutes meditation if you're lucky, or five. Over
Mm-hmm.
there, you do a half an hour yoga, so you can do an hour of meditation. So it's a preparation of your body. But when it comes to Kundalini yoga, it's also a purification of your body through these energy channels, so then your Kundalini energy can awaken. When it comes to, I think where I got it wrong is that I always thought yoga is a feel good exercise. It's an alternative movement where we forgot, well, we have not been taught. And again, that's where I can say, you know, and if sometimes when I say people teaching it the opposite way, how I think, I say nothing, because 15 years ago, I did exactly the same. And that person could not know any better other than what she or he has learned. So a lot of times people pointing at each other, but let's not forget, we learn from where we can. So I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to go to India and learn from the origin. And I was shocked, and a lot of my walls got crumbled of what I taught and what I knew about yoga. What I think it really simplified things down is movement is medicine. A run is medicine, and it could be just as good as yoga. It really doesn't matter what you do, until we call it Western mindfulness, but really in yoga it's called spirituality. It's being alignment with your body, with your energy. Like you said, that, you know, sometimes you see me doing things and you're like, yeah, that's your intuition. In yoga, that's your solar plexus trying to tell you there's something there for you, but you kind of talked yourself out in here because you
Mm-hmm.
kind of covered so cold, and I'm talking in the Eastern Indian terms, your third eye, and you said, no, that doesn't seem logical. Like, I should be doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
But your intuition telling you things. So
Mm-hmm.
yoga is so much more spiritual without us knowing it. And I think this is very boiled down to very complicated, but at the same time, very simple terms, that you can call it an exercise, but it's so much more than an exercise. So now I find teaching Kundalini yoga is helping me, and to helping me for others when I'm teaching it, to bring them closer to the spirituality without, and again, I'm going to put this in a quote, without becoming too deep, too spiritual, too hippie, a
Mm-hmm.
little too shamanic, a little too, I'm not sure about this,
Mm-hmm.
because yoga is very simple, and
Mm-hmm.
spiritualities could be very deep, but it's also very simple again. And I think this is where we get lost. We complicate a lot of things all the
Yeah.
time.
And again, I think, that again shows your ability to maybe like learn from your past experiences and the environments you've been in corporate environment, been lots of different environments altogether, kind of fitness industry. You've been manager of several gyms here, wellness centers in Dublin. You've done lots of different things in Dublin and abroad. And you're probably kind of like, like a good teacher digests the information first before it's given to the students or the pupils. So it seems like you're trying to adapt, or not just trying, but successfully adapting your knowledge to everyone, to people who are maybe coming to your class after days work in the office, or maybe somebody who is on a maternity leave and trying to get back to things. Somebody who maybe had an injury or couldn't do working out, and kind of sort of adapting things for everyone really to be able to join and enjoy. And I myself, have tried your classes. I've been seeing what you're doing, at the personal level, at the professional level, and all that. And it's really nice to see that you're constantly upgrading your knowledge. You're going forward and not just sticking to the knowledge gained, I don't know, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So it's really nice to see that kind of flow of energy. Something that comes to my mind when I think of yoga. Anytime when I feel out of sync with myself, my body just wants to come back to yoga. I feel that yoga, and sometimes it's like, for some of us, it's just doing yoga by ourselves or going to classes for some period of time, and then you sort of like leave it a little bit, and then you re-engage with it. And when it happens to me, those kind of periods when I don't do it, I see that naturally I want to re-engage with it as a tool to connect with myself. And we're talking about HIIT training, very high intensity, running, jumping jacks, and that low intensity training. So that kind of Pilates and yoga, that low intensity, I feel what definitely allows me to connect with myself, with my environment. And you know what? Really to work on quieting those thoughts, going to yourself for that hour or maybe half an hour. It can always be 10 or 15 minutes. It's just about that mindfulness and knowing that if we're not going to give ourselves enough self-care, it's just going to have tragic effects. And I think
Yeah.
we've all been there. Burnout is real. And then it takes quite some time to get back to yourself and being in sync with yourself. But talking about healing, talking about just daily life, daily struggles and good times and everything, when it comes to balance, in my own personal experience, yoga, psychotherapy, any bodily movement, you know, and something interesting to try, such as cacao, or I don't know, introducing a new class to your life. A couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, I went to this Women's Day event, and I tried chair yoga. Again, something new, and I was like, yeah, I think it's great. And the lady who was teaching it was just telling that, people go through different stages in life. Some people maybe not in a position to do it on the mat, and it's just so adapted.
Yeah.
But it can also be like kind of physically challenging, like
Yeah.
so you can go like full on essentially as well.
And I love that what you said, because I think this is what we forget. We go through stages of our life. Like back in the days, we both of us, we were hitting the gym and we were deadlifting like some crazy ladies. And that was the stage of our life, and I think, as well as in a long run, there are stages of your life. So from your youth to your elderly times when you're like, okay, now yoga is a better choice, where before something else was. But it could be vice versa as well. So everybody's body craving for jumping jacks and burpees and weightlifting and yoga in at different times. But I think what's really important as well, particularly when it comes to women, we are cyclical. So within a month, I could feel like I want to go out for a 10K run, and I just really want to hit my limits and kind of a bit torture myself, because my body needs that push of getting through something, to overachieving something that I think I can't. And other days, I need to sit for an hour and meditate, and a very gentle breath work, and maybe a little bit of a yoga, very little bit of a yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And there is time in between where yoga become power yoga, where yoga become yin yoga. And when we were talking about the spirituality of the yoga, and I think this is where yoga is so powerful, it will let you tap in to that inner wisdom where you have this mindfulness connection with your body. And you know what you need. You listen to your body, that just because today is a gym work, there is a difference between, oh, I don't want to go to the gym, and there's another one. It's like, actually what I feel today is more of a stretch. That's what my body needs. Or today what my body needs is a walk on the beach. So really tapping into the inner wisdom. And that's the same with food as well. Which I realized very, very long time ago. I don't call it diet anymore. People ask me what is it, so I started to call it like conscious eating, but just because I really had to put a
Mm-hmm.
name into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you may need different nutrition throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the years. Your body is not the same every single day. So as much as I believed that eating the same thing all the time, that was my journey, and then I had to unlearn it. So now I think the same when it comes to you, like saying the chair yoga, the food. Some days you need a coffee, some days you need a ceremonial cacao. Tap in. And that's real mindfulness. That's real connection to your body to say, what do I need today?
I agree with you. And when it comes to hormones and women and women's body, we go through menstrual cycles. So day 1 to 14 is the day when you might want to be deadlifting. You might want to do your 10K run. You are at the top of the world, most likely, or this is the window where you're most likely to feel that way or more like that. And when we're going to the day 15 to 28 of the menstrual cycle, it's like it just hits me what you said about, maybe meditating or just like taking it slower. And again, that knowledge comes through um, being in this seminar by Rachel Young, who is nutritionist based in Ireland, Dublin, and who spoke about and is all about kind of nutrition and hormones and how does that work together. And in general, like, circadian rhythm, about the body, somebody who really kind of learned it through her own experiences and wants to bring that knowledge out there. So I agree with you. And then also people go through menopause and menopause, and things change again. People are at different stages in their lives,
Mm.
and learning about yourself, about your hormones, being a woman altogether, such as going through those menstrual phases, it sometimes takes a lot of time just to learn about your own self. And I think
And
as we go, yeah.
just remember again, 10 years ago, we were like in the gym taking protein shake, and now here 10 years later you're a psychotherapist and we're talking about ceremonial cacao. And that is really kind of simplify it down as well, isn't it? Because things change, and I think as you're getting older, hopefully a lot of us getting wiser, and as
Mm-hmm.
you said, you learn from what happened and you're tapping. And I actually think, for example, we talked about meditation and then the topic is the cacao. I find cacao, because as I mentioned, it's a heart opener. It also helps you to tap into that hormonal imbalance. What do I need today? So that could be a beautiful tool, actually, to use ceremonial cacao, to sit a little bit with it on every, twice a week and say, okay, what does my body need right now, nutrition wise, activity wise? And I think that will also take off a huge pressure of ourselves of being dedicated. There was this beautiful lady, and she was actually on the live today. Her name is Anna, and she does red tent and hormone yoga. And I've done a few cycles of different activities with
Mm-hmm.
her. And she said something that it struck me. She said once in a workshop that even yoga was created by men, and men are cyclical within a day. So they
Mm-hmm.
wake up, they're full of energy, they're high on testosterone, and then their sun sets in a day. And then they cyclical through seasons. So they have the whole year, 365 days. So at winter time, they are a bit more lazy. At summertime, they're more active. But you and me, we are cyclical in 28 days. So they set up a summer routine or a winter routine on yoga. Even yoga came from them. But us, we have 14 days, as you said, of powerlifting feeling, and we have 14 days of meditating. So once you kind of understand that, I realized, so I don't have to bring all this judgment to myself of not sticking to the plan. Of course, I'm not sticking to the plan because I'm 28 days cyclical. So I
And
think
that
it's also
is,
helped a lot.
yeah, that is the journey of, when things start making sense and you are like, oh, so actually the body is right. The body is right to feel not okay. The body is fine to feel a little bit of bloated and puffy when you're going through certain menstrual stages. And again, all of these things are just so important for somebody who are going through those menstrual cycles because, I mean, it is a real thing where actually people are blocking like time in their diaries, like maybe not to have any, I don't know, super kind of challenging things during certain stages of the menstrual cycle. And I have to say that it only came to my attention a couple of months ago. But when it came to my attention, I was like, that makes an absolute sense. And I've been pushing myself through those hardest of times in my menstrual cycle for like over a decade.
Mm.
And all I knew was just like to keep on, keep on. But you know what I mean? That's when things don't work. And when sometimes things don't work, that's when you learn most about yourself. Why
Mm.
does it not work? What is happening? Oh, so I'm not alone in this. Oh, so it's made of mainly women, like most of the women feel that way. Right. So then it would mean that it is different to feel to be a woman from what it is to be a man in that sense, you know? And in that sense, it is okay to learn more about it. And when you start kind of unpeeling that onion and taking those layers, you start seeing the true colors. And that, coming back to the main point, being true to yourself, to
Mm.
how you feel, and implementing self care, and just working with yourself. As I said, reaching out for help, that could be, again, booking a class. It could be looking for a personal trainer, looking for a life coach, looking for a psychotherapist, looking for somebody who does cacao ceremonies. It could be different for different people. And that's the point. We're all kind of slightly different, but also we kind of have similar needs as
Yeah.
well in that sense,
And
The body is
sometimes you need
designed.
different things at a different time. So you might need to go to the therapy now, and at the end of the week, you need one cacao. Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely.
Yes. So, what I will do from my side, I will save this video, and that's going to be in my gallery, Therapy with Deimante on Instagram. I will also send this recording to Nikki so she can place it on her channel as well. And I suppose, look, Nikki, people can find you on Spiritual But Badass. Essentially, you are, practicing in Dublin and also in Ireland
Yeah.
altogether. And I just saw you had retreat abroad. So if people want to reach out, I would highly recommend Nikki on just lots of different things, but things that she mentioned today is already, a lot.
Yeah.
So, Nikki, as a therapist, I'm curious to see how you feel now after our first live stream.
Ah, great. Well, I mean, it was lovely to have a chat with you. I actually feel like we've been catching up for a while now. It's great. I mean, look, I'm always super excited. My heart almost a little bit goes a little bit like, butterflies when I need to talk about ceremonial cacao, because for me it was one of my first life-changing step. And I really honor and love this beautiful medicine, and I love talking about it. It kind of warms my heart because it really makes me feel like, you know what? We're just all people. You're all just human. We're always trying to figuring it out. So we just got to be kind, compassionate to others and to ourselves as well. And I think it's also beautiful to remind yourself. I always say on my cacao ceremonies that no matter how many times I'm doing cacao and how many times people come in, I always tell them about the story and the history of cacao, no matter how bored they are. Because I said, I also remind myself when I talk about it, how beautiful is that medicine? What a rich culture and history it had. It didn't just appear now and it's the new age thing and whatever. It's very old, it's very ancient, it's very sacred. And I think a lot of us kind of awakening to tapping back into our roots. And I think that's also very grounding. And once you're grounded, you also feel very stable and very calm. And our current world, I guess that's what we need.
That's it. And just also, kind of for the future, just to remember, we started this live stream at 8 a.m. And I think that it's fair to say that we're both like lively and awake. And again, just like I went to that seminar about hormones and human body and everything, that's what you want. This is a healthy sign of a person. You wake up and you feel, yeah, I have energy for the day. So, yes, something that I've noticed and something that's nice, I feel that our energies, they meet, whether we're virtually or whether we're in person. And it's something that I would like to do again, to talk more and explore different topics as well. Would you be up for it?
Definitely, definitely. And I'd love if you will come one day to the cacao ceremony as well. So then you can tell your own experience, for everyone. How was it? Because obviously experience what really speaks.
Absolutely. So, Nikki, have a balanced day ahead of you.
Thank you. And you too as well.
Thank you. And I will see you around.
Amazing. Have a wonderful day to you and for everyone as
You
well.
too.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.